Your hats and other props bring me joy. What stories can you share about them?
So there's a bunch of different reasons for different affectations that I've taken on. As a talking head on YouTube, obviously you need to do something with your head to make it more visually interesting. And since I have a face for radio, that basically means hats and things. So that's part of it. Also, I have an enormous noggin. So finding hats that fit at all, let alone well, can be quite challenging. So when the opportunity presents itself, I tend to take it. So I went a bit mad, and that's how I ended up with so many different hats that I keep returning to the same handful of ones that I usually wear. The glasses, 2 reasons. One, I get light sensitive headaches, and sitting under these lights to record videos can be headache inducing. And secondly, it lets me look at my notes on my screen without giving away that I'm looking away, so it makes things look a bit more professional if distant. But since I'm often also trying to project a degree of reasonableness, dispassion, and not having direct eye contact helps with that. So that's another reason. And also the sun comes in through that window into my face, typically when I'm recording, at least during the spring and summer. So yeah, that's a reason. The rings that I often wear, but ironically I'm not wearing right now. I always used to wear a lot of rings when I was younger, but they would tend to be the sort of cheap adjustable ones, and they would pinch the skin and so on. And then I guess a few years ago now, I realised, wait a second, I'm an adult. I can blow a reasonable amount of money on half-decent rings. So what I tend to do is to buy cheap copper ones, knockoffs, and then if I like them and if the fit is good, then I'll buy a decent version. Iconography on the hats or on the rings is often done to wind people up. So a Baphomet skull, for example, tends to trigger a certain kind of right-wing lunatic. And it's fun to trigger them in my videos and have them spew conspiracist nonsense, and it saves me a lot of time that might otherwise be spent taking them seriously. So that's part of the reason. And I just I like the feel. My hands get stiff a lot, and the heavy rings help with that. Probably arthritis setting in, but we shall see, I suppose. The pipe is partially to mock pundit, and partially just because pipes are useful to gesture with, and they give your mouth something to do, and you can seem to be more professorial and so on if you are gesturing with a pipe. I don't know. I've never smoked, but I've always liked the idea of keeping your mouth busy and using cigarettes and things for gestures and so on. So I thought, let's just have a bit of fun with it. What else? I don't know. This is my Ukon Kurves, which is with the sword or axe of Ukko, who is a Finnish kind of version of Thor, but not really. And he's in the Kalevala, which is their sort of book of myths and gods and so on. And Tolkien drew heavily on the Kalevala, so yeah, I like Nordic culture. This way I can redeem a bit of it from the fash, and also, to those in the know, show how much I love and appreciate Tolkien and his work. So yeah, it's kind of like a top secret signal. What else? I don't know. If there was something specific, ask me. I mean, part of the reason I dress the way I do, I take up the affectations that I do, is kind of because I always have, but it's been somewhat more understated in the past. Now I no longer give a fuck. So I don't mind looking like a cheap Chinese knockoff of Rob Zombie or disgusting Al Jorgensen, or a combination of the two. I think it's a style that suits me, that I've found, and in the past, most of the time when meeting my game design heroes, it's always been disappointing. They have rockstar content that's really deep and interesting, or visually arresting, or thematically arresting in some way, and then you meet the guy behind it, and it's just another standard issue, balding, middle-aged slob in cargo shorts. And I always found that kind of disappointing, to meet your hero who's done this revolutionary, wonderful thing with games, and then that's who they are. So I thought people who meet me should meet someone more visually interesting. And a lot of the people whose work I really like, or have really liked, have had affectations, stylistic or otherwise, that they've put on, that they've used. They have a sort of uniform when they take on their persona or express themselves authentically. So like Sir Terry Pratchett, who I met a couple of times, very, very briefly, but he had his hat and his way of going about things, and Neil Gaiman has his look, and so it goes for a lot of people that I admire very much. Alan Moore, for example, he's got his huge beard and his rings, and he's a wizard. Things like that. So to me, I think, especially in this age where you have to market yourself, I think it's important to have a strong self-image and a strong image that you project, and ideally it should be some authentic aspect of yourself. So that's what I'm striving for, is to be me, but more so, closer to the platonic ideal Grimm that exists only in fevered imaginations.